During this time, I met up with a couple of mentors that I met through my broker, and one of them was a trader in Atlanta, or outside of Atlanta, and she agreed that I could sit with her for a week. And so here's the things that she taught me. So I hopped on the plane, rented a car. She lived near Augusta, where the Masters played. And well, it's funny because when I went there, I actually wasn't sure who the trader was. It was just last name. So she greeted me at the door. She was kind of in her late 50s at the time. I mean, it's like the nicest kindergarten teacher you can imagine. It's like, oh, hi, are you John? Well, come on in. And we're talking for about 20 minutes, and I started to get a little impatient because I actually wasn't sure if it was she that was the trader or the husband, and I didn't see the husband. And so after we're sitting there going back and forth, she just stopped me and said, I know you've got questions, John, but could you wait just a minute? And I was like, oh, sure. And she picked up the phone, ordered 100 S&P futures contracts, and then hung back up. And at that point, she had my undivided attention. And so during that day, what happened is that she had her 100 lot on. She had a 10-point stop. And the market was up, the market was down. But what she did is instead of staring at every tick, is that after she placed her order and her stop loss, she made me go out into the garden with her. And we gardened for 2 hours, and I was about to blow my brains out because I'm like, what's going on in the markets? So we came back, and the S&Ps had been up 15 points, down 8 points, and she ended up making 2 points because her exit strategy was to get out 5 minutes before the close. The next day, there was a lot of movement. She didn't do any trades, and I kind of asked her, I was like, well, don't you feel a little foolish? You had a lot of moves there, and you didn't catch any of them. And she's just like, oh, John, that's a cute question. And what she told me at that point is she just said, she's like, traders are not born with the gene of patience. And if you want to be a good trader, you have got to learn patience or it will never work. And the next day, we sat there, she had her setup, she waited for it, she took it, made like 20 points on 100 contracts in the S&Ps, and then was, well, do you have any more questions, John? I'm like, no, I got it. So I learned this while, the idea here is that patience is not the ability to wait, but how you act while you're waiting. And this is probably, I think, the biggest struggle a lot of traders have. And if you can get this, then the setups I'm going to show you will have a much better chance of working. And so the last quick story about this, and then we'll dive into actual setups. So there was one summer, this was about in 2009, where I have my wife's mom's sister's daughter, who was kind of a problem child in high school. She hung out with kind of the druggy crowd. She was kind of goth. So she's represented by the middle character here because that's kind of how she dressed. And her mom called me up and said, hey, her name is Adelita. We call her Lita. Could Lita do a summer internship with you? I'm like, that sounds amazing. I mean, I really want to work with a 15-year-old high school girl who's on drugs and doesn't like authority. That sounds great. But she had babysat her kids a couple times, and it was fine. So I taught her to trade Dow futures. Now, the first 2 weeks, it didn't work out. And what I realized was that what I was telling her was too complicated. And I needed to be able to have a setup that was so simple, a 15-year-old, questionably drug addict type person could actually follow the setups. And so it really forced me to really clarify and simplify my own trading plan. So she got to the point where she had, it was a 500-tick chart, E-mini Dow futures, and a squeeze, which is what I'll show you here in a minute. And she got to the point where she was cranking out trades. But what she learned to do unknowingly, but I always remembered this, is that once she had a defined setup, she set an alert. And if there was nothing to do, she just played online Scrabble. She didn't sit there staring at the markets looking for something to do. And she sat there playing online Scrabble, and when she heard the alert, then she took action and she followed her plan. So I was fascinated by that because of all, and at the end of the summer, she had a $10,000 account. That was $18,000 after 90 days. So I did the right thing. I gave her $50 and told her good luck. I gave her more than that, but anyway, so it was interesting stuff there.